Hey there, everybody. I am DJ Riley, one of the hosts from Boys on the Bench, and I am back with my top 5 NBA picks for these PrizePicks Friday matchups today. Now, if you're following along yesterday, you saw that we went 4 and 5, hitting that 2 times multiplier. The only one we missed out on was Wendell Carter Jr. going for 10 points. We needed him to have 12. Really, I felt like he would have had this if he played more in the fourth quarter. Only saw about 2 to 3 minutes because it was a blowout against that San Antonio Spurs team. Didn't have the free throw opportunities that he saw last time. Still had the 7 to 8 field goal attempts, but is what it is. We still got the 2 times multiplier. Everyone else cleared their line by massive amounts. So I love this lineup. And what I love even more is today's lineup. So make sure y'all are subscribing to this channel, hitting that notification bell, getting notified anytime that these videos are dropping because they are coming out daily. Now, also, before we jump into this video, check out the links in the description. Down there, you will find our X profile where all of these picks are posted for free, where you do not have to stress about anything. So make sure you're giving us a follow there as well. Now, also in the link in the description, you will find Daily Grind Fantasy, which in this video, you will hear me reference on a consistent basis. Positive EV betting needs to be considered in every single one of your picks. So we'll be showing you what they offer in terms of positive EV for every pick that I'm making today. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into today's picks. The first one that I have for you today is Jalen Johnson going over 28.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. He does have a 2-game history versus this Philadelphia 76ers team, and in their most recent matchup, we saw him go for 48 points plus rebounds plus assist in 41 minutes. In another game earlier this season, we saw him go for 30 points plus rebounds plus assists in 36 minutes of play. So he cleared this line in both of those games. Now, if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, it's a 53.5% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 135. So those are decent odds in terms of positive EV. Again, if you're new, you're kind of looking for that 54 to 55 and above. So 53.5 is pretty good in terms of positive EV. Now, looking at recent performances, he's hit this line in 3 out of his last 5 and 7 out of his last 10. Now, where I really like him in this matchup is the 76ers have really struggled without Embiid, allowing 118 plus points to opposing teams in 5 out of their last 6 games without him. Now, their most recent matchup between this Atlanta and Philadelphia teams was without Embiid as well. They did go into overtime, but Johnson still had 40 points plus rebounds and assists prior to them entering that overtime. So he dominated this line well before that overtime even started. Now, if we look at how he's done in his last 10, he is averaging 16 field goal attempts over his last 10 games, which is a 4 field goal attempt bump higher than his season average. So he's been shooting the ball a lot more recently over these last 2 weeks or so for him. Now, if we look at how Philadelphia has done versus the power forwards, they have had 12 of their last 18 power forwards hit their overs on their points plus rebounds plus assist lines. Although throughout the entire season, they've been very good versus power forwards, allowing the 7th least PRA in all of the NBA. But really, these last 2 weeks, they have been struggling without Embiid in that lineup. So really love Jalen Johnson going over 28.5 PRA for this game. Now, let's move on to the next pick, and that is RJ Barrett going over 21.5 points. He does not have a head-to-head history versus this Houston Rockets team. So if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, they're saying that this has a 49.1% chance of hitting with an average line of minus 110. So again, we are right under that 50% mark, so we're not really getting any value in terms of positive EV here. But RJ Barrett has been on an absolute tear these last couple of games. He's hit this line in 5 straight. He's also hit this in 7 out of his last 10. So Houston has been a dominant defense, and that's really remained consistent this entire season. However, if we look at that shooting guard position, which RJ Barrett plays, they've allowed 7 out of the last 11 shooting guards with points in the double-digit line to go over. So since returning from his injury 2 games ago, Barrett has had at least 15 plus field goal attempts in those games and scored 23 points in each of those. Houston also allows the 3rd most free throw attempts in the NBA, and where we've seen Barrett shoot at least 4 free throw attempts in 6 out of his last 7 games. So really, Houston versus shooting guards, throughout the entire season, they've been really well, allowing the seventh least amount of points to that position. But really, again, over this last 2 to 3 weeks, they've allowed 7 out of the last 11 shooting guards with double-digit point lines to hit their overs. I see that very well happening for RJ Barrett, especially considering the recent shooting success that he's had over these last 10 games. Again, it's 5 straight as well. So anyways, let's move on to the next pick, and that is De'Aaron Fox going over 7.5 rebounds plus assists. Does have a 1-game history versus this Denver Nuggets team. In that game, it was December 2nd. He went for 20 rebounds plus assists in 38 minutes of play. So he cleared this line by 12 rebounds plus assists. Now, if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, it's a 50.1% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 117. So again, we're nearly sitting at that 50-50 split, not really getting a whole lot of odds in terms of positive EV. Now, looking at recent performances, we've seen him hit this line in 3 out of his last 5 and 6 out of his last 10. Now, if we go back to his last 30, he's hit this in 19 out of his last 30 games. Really, for me in this De'Aaron Fox play, this is just seems like an entirely low line. Not really sure why, because if, again, we look at the entire season, he's hit this 70% of the time throughout the entire season. And then the fact that he cleared this line in their most recent matchup by 12 rebounds and assists, it just further proves that this line is way too low for him. Denver isn't anything special. They rank near the middle in terms of rebounds plus assists allowed to the point guard position at the 16th most. So nothing significant really stands out for them. And really, if we look at Fox, who's had double-digit rebounds plus assists and 9 out of his last 13 home games. So we really love this in his most recent matchup, how he's performed at home in terms of rebounds plus assists, and really how he's performed this entire season. Everything for Fox is pointing up for me in this one. But let's move on to the next one, and that's Onyeka Okongwu going over 21.0 points plus rebounds. This is another Atlanta versus Philadelphia 76ers play. He does have a 3-game history versus the 76ers team. In their most recent one, he had 30 points plus rebounds and 35 minutes of play. In his 2 prior games, he had 15 and 10 points plus rebounds in less than 20 minutes of play in both of those games. Now, if we look at what we're getting in terms of positive EV from Daily Grind Fantasy, we are getting a 52.1% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 128. Now, recent performances and how he's done in his last 5 and last 10, he has hit this line in 4 out of his last 5 and also 4 out of his last 10. Now, he hasn't obviously hit this a lot out of his last 10 because it's only been really these 3 to 4 game stretches, these last 3 to 4 games, where we've seen him have a significant increase in minutes. He's now played 34 plus minutes in 3 straight games, where he's also shot the ball 10 plus times in those 3 games as well. Now, if you look at how Philadelphia's done versus the center position, they've allowed 8 out of their last 13 centers to cash their overs. Not only have they struggled to stop centers from scoring, but they've also struggled to stop opposing offensive rebounds, where they allowed the 3rd most offensive rebounds in all of the NBA. Okongwu has had 4 plus offensive rebounds in 3 straight games. So Philadelphia versus centers, points plus rebounds, they allow the 8th most. So really love this matchup for Okongwu here. Everything is going up, has a minute increase, has been dominating the offensive rebounds, and has been shooting the ball highly efficiently here of lately. But that brings us to our last pick, and that is Brandon Miller going over 25.5 points. Does have a 1-game history versus this Milwaukee Bucks team. On November 17th, he did only have 10 points on 27 minutes of play. So if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, it's a 51.4% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 123. Recent performances, he's hit this in 3 out of his last 5 and 5 out of his last 10. But Charlotte is still going to be without LaMelo Ball in this game. And in games without LaMelo Ball, we've seen Miller's usage increase greatly, where we see him shooting the ball 17 plus times in 7 straight games. Miller has also hit this over in 2 out of his last 3 away games, with both overs coming against tough defenses and the OKC Thunder and Minnesota Timberwolves. So those are very tough defenses. He has another tough defense, or no, has a very easy defense versus this Milwaukee Bucks team, who is allowing the 7th most points in all of the NBA. Now, how they rank versus a small forward position, sitting right about the middle in terms of points allowed, allowing the 15th most. But I really like him, how he's been playing here recently. Again, another game without LaMelo Ball. He has a lot of usage and has been playing well on the road here recently. So anyways, everybody, these are my top 5 NBA picks on Friday. But also make sure you're checking out that X profile because more picks are likely to drop there as well. So make sure you're staying on top of that. Also, make sure you're staying on top of it by subscribing to this channel, hitting that notification bell, and getting notified anytime that these videos are dropping because, again, they are coming out daily. So let's have another positive day today. I'd be fine with another 4 and 5 day, but really looking for that 5 out of 5 day. Anyways, best of luck to y'all. Let's have a good Friday heading into this weekend. See y'all tomorrow.